So we want to welcome you out. My name is Jessica Castaneda. I work as the project director for IDRC. And so it looks like we've got people from all over the place. I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with the resources that we have. So if you have something that you use periodically from us, if you want to put it in the chat box, I'm going to be sharing some new resources. So a couple of them we've mentioned at a few presentations yesterday. And so I'm not sure if some of you might be aware of a few of these things, but lots of things that we have. We are a consortium of 26 states. And so a lot of the materials, most of the materials that we create has the input of what we call our TST, which is our technical support team. And so this is a group of practitioners from our 26 states that kind of decide the direction that we're going to go in and help create materials. And sometimes consortium materials are really kind of shared just within the consortium. And one of our focuses is also to help get resources out to all states. And so members do have specific things that they're able to receive that we don't have the resources to share with everybody. But most of the things that we do, we try to push out and make sure that everyone can access that. So if you have a favorite resource, go ahead and put that in the chat box. If you're brand new and you've never heard of IDRC or you don't know what we do, go ahead and put that in the chat box, just so that I kind of know a little bit more about the group that's listening. So in this, feel free to unmute yourself. And if you want to put your camera on, you can, but you will be recorded. So, and I'll give a little bit of time at the very end when the recording's off if someone wants to ask something that they don't want to have recorded. So welcome. Thank you for joining us. Most of the things that I'm going to share are directly, easily found on our website. And so if you're new and you're not sure what that is, let me go ahead and just pop that into the chat box. And so everything that we have, I'm going to try to put a link so that you can play around with it if you would like. So we try to put most of the things, I do our website, so if it doesn't make sense, it's my fault, but we try to have this front page be where we house a lot of the things that we have going on. And then we post a lot of the brand new things under what's new. And then once we, if it's just on what's new, we try to find a permanent place that makes sense, but we use our front page really to try to, let you know all those things that are there. So a few of the things we're going to be talking about today are our 3 new portals. We already have a learning center basically for recruiters, and it's been recently updated, but we have these 3 new portals, which we're going to explain today. We also have assessments that you can take. We have a referral tool. So we're going to kind of go through this morning just some of the things that are available for free for everybody, and then how you can access it and where we're going with it. Because some of it, we may be developing more tools that go with it. And so there was a comment that you like the webinars. We try to put our webinar information right here on the front page. If you scroll down, you can kind of see it. My computer is a little bit slow because of all the stuff going on. If you can click on that, that's where our webinar information is. But we kind of moved over to starting putting everything on our YouTube page. So when we have webinars, we usually try to put all of our monthly ones. We put that information right here. All of our upcoming training webinars are right here. So if you're wondering, we try to promote a lot of them through our newsletter, but you can actually go in and, kind of click through and see what's coming up. So we have one coming up in June. That's our next one. So if someone has a comment, feel free to make that. Okay. So let me see, one of our sessions is having tech issues. I'm not sure how I can even help with that. So let me get back on to here where we are. So one of the ones we wanted to share with you first is this new portal that we have that's called our Agriculture Information Portal. So yesterday when Pat was talking, she was mentioning how recruiters should have a plan. They should kind of know where they're going. They should know what they're doing. They should know what places they need to visit. We should be trying to keep track of, farms and really be organized when we're out in our efforts. And so, can you post the IDRC website? Yeah, I did post the IDRC website right there at the beginning. I'll go ahead and repost that. So you can see that. It's right here. So feel free to visit around there. So this the Agriculture Information Portal was created with the idea that there are national lists that are available that everyone should know about. All states should have this. And so about a year ago, we created really in-depth lists for all of our IDRC states. And so they will have a little bit more information than non-IDRC states, but we thought in seeing that, we got lists out to our member states, and then sometimes we may have emailed a list to one person and a recruiter may not even be aware of it. So we thought it might be helpful to go ahead and have a place that everyone can access these lists at. And so you can go right to the front page of our website. I'm gonna go ahead and open it so you can see it on the website. And if you go right to the front page, if you scroll down, here is where our agriculture portal is. And so I'm going to open it up and kind of walk through what's on it. So when we have been kind of trying to look at what resources are available, we've been trying to look at the lists that continue to be updated nationally for various things. And so if you open up, Arizona is one of our first states right here. Every single one of you can access your own state. But what we did was look at the list that we already had. And so on our IDRC states, they have an IDRC developed state ag list, but then everyone else has everything else below. And so all states have a migrant, a farm contractor list. And so if you open this up, it's going to give you the farm contractors that are in your particular area. And you can see those. And so when you take a look at your particular area, it's going to list everybody that's right now listed on the Department of Labor for as a farm contractor. And so you can see that right there. And then we also did a map. So each one of these maps that we have are batch Geo Maps. I'm going to go ahead and stop. Marcella, I don't know if you want your video on. I'm going to turn it on because you're just turn that off. The batch Geo Map basically is a listing of all the farm contractors that you can see where they're located in your state. And so the passwords for this are always IDRC. And so you can just go in, and when you click on one of these, it will give you all the information. And so you can see that for this particular one, you can see everything that's available when they start, how long they'll have their farm labor contractors listing. If they were listed in the past year, they're still on there. And so you can see them and you can contact them. So that's the first listing that we have. We also have all the H2A and H2B spreadsheets that are now updated monthly. This also includes the H2A and H2B relevant housing. And so this was we were not able to update this previously each month, but we've now been able to find a way to update this. So every single state has one of these and they are updated monthly. And if you open it up, any new listings that we just received for that month are always in the top in yellow. And so if you just have a Google Drive that you can just make sure that you've loaded up onto your Google Drive, you'll always have the most updated spreadsheet because we just update it to the same spreadsheet. So if you go back here, you can see you've got the H2A, you got the H2B, you've got maps. You can use these maps also with your phone. And so if you click on, if you have an Android phone, the application will just work right directly with your Android. If you have an iPhone, you need to just download the free app for Batch Geo. But if you click on this, there's always a little arrow that you can use. And if you click on the arrow, it's going to take you to get directions to this place. And so you can use it with your GPS on your phone. So our idea was hopefully if you could visually see them, then it might be helpful to kind of know where they're at. We are doing a training tomorrow on Google Maps, because with Google Maps, you can actually add multiple spreadsheets and just create a larger map that has H2A and also has mobile home parks, anything that you want from these lists that you can just pull down. We also have a list of the trailer parks in your state. I know that not every trailer park has migrant families, but in a lot of places, this is a good place to check. Some of the trailer parks will have families that might be eligible. So we have a national list. FEMA keeps a list of, just in the case of emergency, of all of the trailer parks across the country. And so we go through and periodically update it. And we have a state list for everybody right there. So that's also there. Close some of this so my computer doesn't go crazy. Then we also have the USDA egg, poultry, and meat processing inspection list. This is updated weekly by the USDA. So this is a listing of all of the locations in your state that qualify as USDA egg, poultry, or meat. So these may or may not qualify if they're doing something past initial processing. Of course, it won't, but it'll give you an indication of where all these places are, and then you can reach out. And then for states, hemp is something we've tried to really spend some time to gather information about what's happening in hemp in each state. Some of them we have to do what's called a FOIA request or a Freedom of Information request. So it may not have all the information. It may have just the farmer's name and the town. Some of them are very complete. They have everything about them. So you can click on here, open it up and see. For Arizona, for example, they just have the name and their license expire when it's going to expire. But you'd have to do some sort of search to find these particular growers, but at least it's a start. And so we're trying to work on those requests for every single state. We also have relevant state-specific agriculture information. So we've got different associations from that particular state. And then we have an ag census query tool, which is a really cool tool that you can go in, click on it, and we have it set up so that you can check out the number of farm workers per county. And so you can actually go in and put, this is already set up for Arizona. I just need to change the whatever county I want. I can update this grid, and it will let me know what's happening in that particular place related to the number of farm workers that's in the area. So right away, this is saying, okay, in this, I don't even know how to say this, Coconino, Arizona, there are 174 operations that hire workers. There are 12 that say that they hire more than 10 workers. And then below, there are 546 workers that are employed at these entities. So I can actually click on a different one and say, well, I wonder how this compares. I had 546 in this one. I switched counties and now in Maricopa, and I now have 7,925 workers. So if you are trying to prioritize your areas to know, which one would be helpful, I'm going to drop this in the chat box so you can kind of play around with it. You can take a look at it. This is based on the Ag Census, which is from 2017, but you'll see that the numbers don't change a huge amount between, they do this every 5 years. So it gives you a good indicator of how counties might stack up against each other. So if anyone has questions, feel free to put it in the chat box. And then we also have county, and we might have the wrong link here. So I just looked at some of these yesterday. We might have to update. In every single, let me go back to where I was. In every single, if you just type in USDA county, state county profiles, there are some pretty cool resources that come up from USDA. And so I'm going to pop this into the chat box right now so that you can see this. Hopefully I am sharing this. Maybe I am not. Yes, I'm sharing. What these are the Ag Census kind of profiles for each county. If someone puts really quick in the chat box, your state and a county, the first one, we'll just look at them real quick so you can see how this works. Whoever puts that in quickest. Let's see, or else I'll pick one. Are you guys there? Let's see. Washington. Okay, Utah, Weber County. So we'll look under Utah, and then we'll go down to Weber. So if you open this up, this is a tool that the USDA has. We just heard from USDA, but this is one of my favorite tools that they have. This is just a quick summary of what's happening in the county. And so you can kind of learn how to read it real quick. I know some of you may know this, so I'll go through it really quickly. This is just, a quick survey. So it just says, okay, this particular county has had a 29% change in the land of farms and the average size of farms. So if you were from this county and you thought there was less agriculture, you're right, because right here it's showing that the number of land, the percentage of land has actually gone down 20%. That's pretty high. You can see the kind of crops that it has, 50% crops, 50% livestock. Pasture land is 58%, cropland is 30%. I like to look down here about the number of huge farms they have. There are 10 that are over 1,000 acres, but this is where I find something's really helpful. The percentage of farms, there are 45 farms that make over $100,000. This is helpful to know because most farms that are smaller don't hire a lot of workers. So I have at least 45. It may be just barely 100,000. It may be 5 million, but I've got at least 45 that specifically are making more than that. I can also quickly scan to see the rank in the state of Utah. This county, Weber County, is 11th in the state. So you can see how you can rank against the other counties. Number 7 in the state for crops. Number 2 in the state for vegetables, melons, potatoes, sweet potatoes. Number 2 for Christmas trees, short rotation woody crops. This gives me ideas of what I'm supposed to be looking at, what kind of work there is in my county, what I need to do. Number 7 in the state for milk from cows. Number 4, horses, ponies, mules, burros, and donkeys. That probably doesn't help us. And then down below, it'll give us a little bit of ideas that 19% of the farms in this county hire farm labor. So it's just a quick overview of if you're brand new and you have no idea what kind of agriculture is in your area, or if you've been there a long time and you're wondering if you've got everything, this is a good place to go. And so we have included this on each one of the, the states so that they can go in and use that. So let me see if there is a question. Does anyone know what's the best site to use a map to coordinate home visits by address? So you want to be really careful if you're putting any student identifiable information out there on a map. So it just depends on how you're wanting to do that. And so someone says, I came in late. Where is all this information located on the IDRC website? Just go to the very front page, scroll down right here on the front. So just scroll down a little bit. Okay. So moving on to just a few of our slides to make sure I cover everything. And so feel free to keep putting your questions in the chat. And maybe for Blanca, tomorrow we're doing a session really on mapping. And so we can talk about different ways that people do mapping. But just because you said home visits, you have to be really careful on what you're putting on the map and how you're doing that. Okay, so right here, like I said, we just went through what everything is there. We feel like this information can easily be put into a Google map so that you can then be able to access that. And when you're out in the field, be able to see all of the things, not just the batch geo maps that are separate. You can actually see each one of them and kind of know what's out there. And so if you're trying to manage your time well, you can kind of look at it and say, okay, I've got a place that's 2 miles from here, or I've got a place that's right on my route, and you can make sure that you thoroughly canvass your area. So we suggest that this resource should be used to help you really determine all the locations of eligible work. You probably know more than what we have on there. So you can kind of use this to create a really good, strong county profile of what's happening in agriculture in your area. You can create those visual maps. You can create protocols of saying, okay, this should be a living kind of document. So if we have these lists, maybe some of them are outdated. Maybe this farm doesn't exist anymore, so you want to pull it off. So some sort of protocols of kind of taking and adding those locations and making sure that the visual map that you have is up to date. And then using some reporting tools so that if I go out to a farm, I'm going to keep track of who I talked to, what they said, any follow-up that I promised, when they said workers would be available, and keep track of that so that I can remember that in the fall I should go here, and the spring I should go here. This is who I talked to. This is the last time I talked to them. And so this is super helpful to be able to really manage my area. Then, like it says here, you can use that ag data, like that county profile information or the number of farm workers, to really prioritize and see how areas compare with each other, and to be able to really come up with a thorough way to really thoroughly canvass my area and ensure that I'm really visiting all those places that I need to visit. So it's a pretty cool resource. We hope that it's helpful as we find any new additional information. Like this morning, they put on a list of a searchable site for the USDA farm worker housing. And so we will be dumping that into each state so that they'll be able to easily find that. As we find these tools that kind of help us look nationally or help us be able to see listings of agriculture locations or housing, we're going to continue to drop those in so that you have those on those pages. If you have a good idea of something that's not on there, maybe you have a really comprehensive list of dairies and we don't have it on there, let us know and we'll put it on your page so that everyone in your state can really access that. So here's an example of one of the things that we just did in working with the state. One of the things that we try to do with our IDRC states is work with strategic planning. And so the state that we're working with, one of the things we wanted to do is to help them know how to rank their different counties in their areas by priority, of which ones might have more work than others. And so what I did, or with the help of Melissa, who also works with me, we used that query tool that we showed you. We used the county profiles, and we looked at how to rank the counties to say, all right, McLean County is the #1 ranking in the state. They have 1,120 farm workers. 85% of their crops, what they grow is crops. They have 44 entities with 5 to 9 workers, 6 entities with over 10, 92 acres of vegetable harvesting. So it gives them an exact idea of what's going on. Of the crops harvested, 22 acres were pumpkins, or tomatoes, 20 were pumpkins, 37 acres in orchards, and this is exactly what it is. And so then we start breaking it down by livestock. So if I'm planning for these areas and I look and say, wow, in McLean, we only have like 20 eligible kids, but in Iroquois, we have 157. I can look and say, well, there's similar things happening. What am I missing? What do we need to do? Or maybe all the housing in one county is where in the agriculture county where you think it's big is in the next county over. And so people are actually living, you want to know, living in this other county, but you want to know why your numbers, you want to make sure your numbers equal out with the agriculture data that you have. And so we'll be working on for our IDRC states to kind of compile more of these kind of tools so they can see, but it's something that any state can do and kind of see how best to use that data. Okay, so next slide. Sorry, I just stopped sharing my slides. Make sure I'm sharing the right thing. And if you have questions, again, please put those in the chat box so that we can answer those. So, well, again, like if you come across something that you think we need to have, let us know and we'll put it on there. And then we're going to move right now to our resource portal. So this is also on our front page. And the idea for this was years ago, I worked a long time in Tennessee, and we always created these paper like resource documents. So if I went to recruit in one county and I wanted to know where the adult ed was, or wanted to know what the health department was, I'd have a paper listing, a Word document listing of all of these resources. Well, part of the challenge is sometimes you have, I could be in Tennessee and I'd have someone say, well, I'm going to Kentucky. Do you know where this is? And so we had the idea to take a look at all the resources that could be available in an area that might be helpful to tell migrant families. And then also the partners, sorry.
You got some pretty good ones. The one you sent was good.
All right, so let me make sure to mute yourself if you come on, unless you want to say something. There was a question, where is that info? Where was the spreadsheet comparing counties? That's something we created. So the spreadsheet comparing counties is something we're just doing for our states. You could create that yourself. But right now that's something we're doing for IDRC states. But that information we got from the county profile information, and we also got from that query tool that's on, and we just put it into a spreadsheet. So Allison, if you want to reach out to me later, I can send you like the template that we use to do that and tell you where you got it, and you can do that for your own state. Okay, so good question there. All right, moving back to the resource portal. So again, right here on the front page, and you click on the resource portal. So the idea from this is, someone in the chat box, go ahead and give me a state. First state that comes in, we'll look up. Okay, so North Carolina. So again, this exists for every state, and so I'll drop it in the chat box. And if you want to look at your own state, you can look right there. But we're going to look at North Carolina. So when we created these, we were trying to think of all the different types of resources that might be helpful for states to know about. So if I'm standing in front of a migrant family, what are the places that they might ask me for? So here we have somebody put Antarctica, and that's not exactly helpful. We have adult ed, we have after school programs, we have camp programs with Catholic charities, churches. So if you click on these are searchable places that you can go in and say, okay, I want to look at all of the churches that are in North Carolina. And then it's going to give me a listing of all these places. And so you can kind of look specifically in certain towns, and it will have that on there. Also things like dental, to find all the free, the low cost dental resources, domestic violence, driver ed, educational rights. So the idea is that if you needed to find the local Lions Club, that you'd be able to click on here and put your zip code and find that and have that information right at your fingertips. Fire departments, food banks, healthcare providers, HEP, Head Start, everything we could think of. These are searchable sites that should be able to, they're state specific, that should be able to give you the information you need. Also, we really believe in the importance of balanced recruitment, that you need to have community partners. This is a great place to go in and figure out who could be some of your community partners that you can try to build relationships with, to really have a good recruitment network of people that'll give you heads up when there's migrant families, or for you to be aware of resources that they offer. So that's what this tool is. Like I said, it's available for everybody. Feel free to use that, based on, how you need it, whether you're using it more for partners or whether you're using it specifically to be able to share with migrant families. So examples of information, like I said, were all the ones that we just mentioned, and we focused on those searchable state websites that would really give you that information. So there was a question on how you get to that page. You just go right to the front of the IDRC website, look for the resource portal, click on it, and then you find your state. So there's a listing of every state on there. So we feel like that, if you come across, you wind up, we know that websites change and things will need to be updated. So if you come across a broken link, let us know. If you have a resource that you really would feel like would be helpful, or something that your recruiters need to have, if you're a supervisor and you think, hey, I would love to add this to the North Carolina listings, then let us know and we'll add those on. So this should be something that's kind of a living document that we update as we need to, but it should be something that's a really helpful start for people to really have that resources. So our brand new resource that we have is the Student and Family Learning Portal. So IDRC is responsible we have a list of deliverables or things that, basically processes that we're supposed to do with our grant. And one of them was to help states develop, kind of increase their ability with recruiters to provide beginning services to families. And so the work groups that we work with, we had a work group that specifically looked at this area. And we decided to come up with a place that families could go. The idea, if your recruiter comes into a home and they're talking with the mom and dad, and maybe mom says, hey, my third grader is really struggling with reading. A lot of times we don't have any idea of what we can tell them or where we could point them to go. And we might say, well, make sure I can, get you in contact with someone from the school for extra help. But sometimes it's nice to have something right in your hand right at that moment. And so we created this tool really for that purpose. And it's deep enough that you could do tutoring. You could use it in a summer program. You could, there's lots and lots of resources that are available through this portal. And so I'm going to walk you through kind of the logic of why we created it, what we're doing with it, some of our favorite sites on there, and how you could use it with families. We do have, I'm just going to skim it due to time, so I won't be going super in depth, but we do have our next, in June, we have a monthly webinar that is specifically about how to use this. And so we do have a QR code for states if they're wanting to be able to share this resource with families easily. We have the QR code, it is on the website, and we'll be sending out a lot more information next month for how states can use this. So for our IDRC states, for example, we're creating what we call supply bags that may have like art. It may have a little notebook, some markers, some crayons, some pens, an eraser. I'm trying to think of, because we're putting them together right now. And we have this code on the outside so that we can sit down with them and say, hey, for summer learning, we have a place that you can go and read books. We have, if your kid is wanting to learn more about colleges or think of careers, we have this or we have this. And so they'll bring the supply bag and sit down and talk with the families and explain the program, explain how to access it. And it's just kind of a way for them to get started. And so any state could do this. They could do whatever. They wouldn't have to have a supply bag. But the idea is all of the sites will help the kids really focus on academic skills. This is literacy. This is looking at reading, math, science, STEM, career readiness. At high school, we have like career planning. And so all the websites are student friendly, the kind of thing that they could just sit down and kind of work with themselves, with the exception of a couple for the high school students, because they're old enough to, for example, join FastWeb and get scholarship updates of things they might be qualified for. And so this is, we're going to, in June, like I said, you can go ahead and register if you want to learn a lot more about this tool. We'll have really in-depth training on examples of how to use it with different grade levels, how to use it with parents. We have a section for OSY. I know ISOC has a lot of resources. We focused more on current ELL websites that they could easily go in and sit and learn by themselves. And so let me show you where you can always go, because there was a question of if you want to register. So just as a reminder for upcoming events, if you go to upcoming events right here, we always have our things that are happening. And so some of it is for our member states, some of it is for everyone. And so the June 14th using the Student and Family Learning Portal is for anyone. But if you go right to the front page of the website and you click right here, I'll put this in so that you guys can play with it as I'm talking. Here is where the portal start is. And so a couple cool things right here at the top. Let me make sure I'm sharing my screen. Yes. Right here at the top is a language widget. So let's say you have families that are Somali speakers, or you have different languages. You can actually go in and change the language. So maybe we'll put it Portuguese, and it'll change it immediately. So this is only the IDRC side. So what we've done is build this portal that'll take you to a lot of places. So as soon as you leave the IDRC site, it will no longer be in the language. But the idea is, if I walk into a home and that third grader, and the mom's saying he's having a hard time in reading, and I know they have a device in the home and that child might be on the device, I can sit and talk to the mom to say, hey, I've got some websites that you could have him play some games to help him improve his reading skills. Or if they're struggling in math, this is a great site. And so I can walk the mom how to through how to use this, and she'll be able to see it in her own language as long as she has the literacy skills to be able to do that. So just kind of a quick run through. Our pre-K, we have, the idea is that if we open this up and you shared it with a pre-Ker, and if I had the language here for the parent, I could change that. These are things that will help them learn the alphabet, help them learn numbers, letters, shapes. And so these are kid-friendly sites that I could put a pre-K kid on. They could go to Sesame Street and see the different things that are available. I've got games, I've got videos, I've got art. These are all, Starfall. These are sites that I'm not having to really sign in. I could do some free things before anything was signed in. And so the thought process is, okay, if I'm going to put on some videos, like maybe the kids are already watching some videos, let's do some things that will actually help them improve, some of their skills to get ready for school. And so we've also got things like National Geographic for little kids that they can go in and learn about different things. The idea is we're kind of getting them started for pre-K. So then moving on to K through 2, now we get a lot more in depth where we take it and we break it out into different subjects. So we've got math tools. And so you go here, these are math games for K through 2. And so there's all sorts of games that they can play. They can kind of sit down. Maybe you're having a summer school and you have them have a little bit of time in the lab while you're working with other kids on something specific. You could go in and say, hey, why don't you go play some games in FunBrain? Or why don't you go do some math playground? And these are specific things that are kind of fun sites for kids, but it's also very much working on skills as they're working with it. Since kids like YouTube, we also tried to find some YouTube channels that were good, that would be helpful. So this is the K through 2 reading, different ways that they can actually learn. And it says, Gloria says, we can practice with our grandkids then with program parents. Yeah, you can try it out with your own kids. When we were creating this, I have a 10-year-old. I had him go on and I paid attention to which ones he've used. I worked for about 12 years in after school at the same time I did migrant ed. And we had one of these. We created one specifically for kids during the downtime, transition time. We're trying to help some kids with homework, but we need some other things for kids to be able to go on. So we created this. This is an extremely much better updated version of what I used to have. And the idea is during the pandemic, there were a lot more resources that are available for kids to learn. Another thing is we may want a summer program. We may want summer learning. And so you open this up and FunBrain has a ton of books that they can just games. And this one specifically, they can go on and read. And so maybe they can't go to the library, but as long as they have access to internet and to a device, they can go in and read some of these things. So what we've done is literally for every grade section is find appropriate related things that would be helpful. Like here, Turtle Diary, they go in and they practice typing. So it's all related to writing games, things that they would not be like, oh, Jessica, why do you bring me this? I don't want to do this. Things that they would enjoy doing, but it would also help them learn. So we have it for science. Like I said, each grade section, specific social studies, same thing. They've got all different kinds of things that they can learn about, virtual explorers for the world, for geography. And then we have a STEM section. And so the STEM looks at a lot of coding. It may look at different challenges they can do, fun science, kind of different tools that they can use on that. So that's K through 2. The same idea applies to every single grade level, except it changes appropriately to the grade levels that it needs to. So for 3 to 5 reading, we have, for example, Storyline that they can listen to. We've got BBC has they take the news articles and make it kid friendly so that it's easy for a 3rd through 5th grade to read. And we've got global digital libraries, Time Kids, just reading games that they can do, again, appropriate to this. So as we get a little bit older, we also start doing some of the career planning. And so we start looking at talking with kids on what they want to be when they grow up. There's some really neat websites that kind of talk about different jobs. And, this particular one, Road Trip Nation, they go on trips around the country and they look at different jobs. And so you could actually do a tutoring session where you're sitting down free. So Blanca asked, is this free? Everything that I'm showing you right now is absolutely 100% free. And you don't have to create an account for parents. The idea is you literally click on it and you can access the resource. And so, you can see it's just right there. None of these were all intentionally because not everybody can remember their emails and access. These are all free, kid friendly. Like I could sit next to a kid and say, hey, let's learn about jobs right here. What do you think you want to be when you get when you get older. And so I can go in here and kind of see what there is. One of my favorite ones, like here, it's like maps, looking at different things that you can do. There's, STEM occupations. And so the idea is you start talking to them. My all-time favorite is this one. It has an English and Spanish. And it's a profiler that basically, and they have their homepage is even better. Let me put that on there. So this exists in English and Spanish, but the idea is you sit down with a kid and say, hey, what do you want to be when you want to grow up? Oh, I want to be a mechanic. Okay, well, let's check out, and here it is in Spanish. Put this in. Let's check out and see how much, let's look for that, that particular career. And so I can go in here and say, let me look up something about, let's see what's on here. I think I can search it too. Let's see, mechanic. So here's all these different mechanics. And I said, well, what kind of mechanic do you want to be? Well, maybe you want to be a heavy equipment mechanic. It'll open it up. It'll tell them the skills that they need and then what they like. It will tell you how much money they're going to make, tell you what education they need. And then you can actually check out in your own state how much money you can make in where exactly you live. And see, you can actually all the way go to look at jobs. And so one of the things that we've, realized is that sometimes you want to be something, but there's not really a need for it in your community. And so we start having discussions. So a recruiter, this is something that beginning services could be, a recruiter could sit down and talk, this, if they're doing a session with a family or a tutor or an instructor at the school, these are tools that can be helpful. And so when you look specifically at this, we're trying to find, like this one's called Jump Start. How much money do you actually need in the future? You go in and the kids put what they think they need, and then they see what it actually costs. Like, okay, when you grow up, are you going to live at your home with your parents? Are you going to have your own apartment? And then they have to go in and realize like, oh, shoot, with my plan, I need to make a lot more money than what I thought. So these have all been, we tried to really well, think this out of things that would be helpful. So again, the idea is totally free. They can go in there. There's a lot of different tools you have. One of the things we were trying to do is make sure that it's kid friendly, because this is not something where mom is going to be like, hey, sit down and, I'm going to show you this. That has to be something that's easily navigated by the student. Then we have grades 9 through 12. And same thing, we have math tools. There's a question, where do I find this on the homepage? Remember, always just start on the homepage and scroll down and you'll see it. So this is for 9th through 12th math. These are some things of like, if students are having to teach Algebra 1 to themselves, they're not sure, they're not understanding it. These are really good sites that have a lot of interactive tutorials to help practice. We have Khan Academy on here, Math is Fun, Wyzant. There's several different really cool resources that'll help them with those harder skills in math. We also have language arts resources. We're specifically looking at writing and some competitions and things that they can do there. Then we have a section on college prep, trying to help them figure out to find the right schools, how to map their future, how to sign up for scholarships, where to sign up for to take free ACT test prep, learn about different scholarships, and also FAFSA. So the idea is it's really deep, has lots and lots of resources. And so we want states to be very comfortable with creating, not just being like, hey, here's this portal, like to be able to deliberately help kids learn. And so one fun way to do that is we did a summer learning, just a link real quick for just some ideas for getting started with kind of introducing them to the portal. And so in some states, what they're doing is like a summer reading program. And so they can actually log in how many books they listen to if they don't have. And then we also, a lot of kids learning to draw is good to follow steps. And so we pick some of our favorite YouTube sites that is talking already, YouTube sites for learning to draw, and then for all ages. And so this is kind of a quick tool that Google has that you start drawing and it tries to tell you if it recognizes what you're drawing or not. And these other tools, some of these are really, really cool tools that you can actually use to learn some kind of stuff that might be available in Photoshop and different things, but it's a free tool that they can actually go in and draw with another friend at the same time. Again, completely free. And then we've got some tutorials, and then there's some really cool resources that they can actually make their own book. So this one you do have to sign in for. So this would be something if you were going to challenge a kid to create their own book, you can help them get set up that way. And so for some places, you might go in and talk about the resource and do different lessons with them. And you could have them create their own book through this. And so this was just an idea of just a way to kind of break the ice and, you know, do something fun in summer. Then we also have virtual field trips, because it's just kind of fun to go places if you can't go anywhere sometimes. And so these are Airpano is super cool. You can go in, there are 360 journeys that you can take. It says pay attention, make sure to pay attention to the word trial. Yeah, I mean, most of these, if it says trial and you get on there, you're not gonna be able to do anything else unless you know, there are just a couple of them that are just the trial versions. Most of them, there's absolutely nothing that you have to, you know, to pay, but several of them are the trial versions, and you can do it for 4 or 5 times, and then it'll say, well, can I have your email? And at that time, there's, you know, if they see that that's relevant, they can work with their tutor. They're all the ones we have on there are free. But Airpano lets you go to different places, and you can actually go in and see. And my computer's going to go crazy if I do too much of this with everything that's going on. But they can actually go to these different places in the world and see. Dollar Street is a pretty cool tool that lets you, let me close a few things out, lets you see different people in the world and how much things cost. And so you get to meet the person, you click on it, and you can see a little bit about their life. And if you click on it, you can learn more about them specifically, what everything costs. You get examples of where they live, what they do, kind of an interesting way to bring in, you know, just different things that are happening in the world. Farm 360, you can go see these farms right, you know, just in Canada that are, everything's happening right around you. I believe we have a tour through the White House. We have San Diego zoo cams that you can actually see the animals in real, you know, right now, and see also we have some live cameras from all over the world. And so that is on the virtual field trips. For parents, we have some websites that are kind of things that you would walk them through. Again, we have the language, they can change the language right then and see some of these different sites, but these will take them and help them be able to see some helpful sites if parents are able to kind of do that on their own. And then we have a teacher site. So the teachers, these are trackable free websites, but it requires a login, and it requires you to kind of assign specific things that you want them to learn. So this is specifically, these are not, I wouldn't send the kids there by themselves. These are things that you're saying, all right, I'm going to do some tutoring with this child. I want to see how they do. And so we're going to check out this particular website. You know, they're going to go in and read different things and take some tests. Or Desmos, you can go in and you can assign specific math things for them to do. And so these are ones that are more tutoring kind of resources, but it is in this section right there. So this is our baby that we just finished, and we're really excited about it. And so for IDRC, like, we're encouraging, there's too many migrant students across the country that are not getting served. And so we're trying to build some tools that there's no excuse that we can't sit down and work with kids. And, you know, you may have a tutor say, I have absolutely no curriculum, I have no resources. We're trying to put this out there to say there are a ton of awesome websites that already exist that we can access and we can get in. So next month on our on the webinar, we're actually going to give examples of, like, all right, if I go in and this is a family and they have this age and this age, this would be some things that I could do with them. If I'm doing a summer program and I want to use this, then, you know, this is how we're going to use it. And so really cool thing. I'm personally very excited about. Spent a lot of time on this, trying to find the right things. Oh, and I forgot OSY. So OSY, we did a little bit different. We tried to think about kind of life skills ideas of, sometimes there is, OSY are still wanting to learn math, or still wanting to see things. So we took things that were not like babyish, but that might be helpful. So there are some websites about using math in everyday life. There are some just games to just practice beginning math skills. Then there's some for harder math skills. And then there's like ones in Spanish. And then we also have some resources from Mexico that have the trainings that they would provide in, you know, math courses from Mexico. We included those in there. We also have the same thing for reading. We have ones that we thought would be teaching someone to read in English. There's a word explorer that GCF Global has that you literally can just sound out words and listen to them. And then there's the actual, like, learning how to read. This GCF Global is really good. They teach reading to all different age populations. And so we use some of their resources. BBC has some really good current events, things that are helpful to read, just kind of a word shake game. that you can do. And then news and levels, actually, if you're teaching an ESL class, for example, with OSY, it will let you choose the level that you want the news to be in. It's a pretty cool site. So like if I go in here and I'm gonna look at, I can go to the home here. I think this might be the last, I can go in and say, I want to look at articles for level 1. And I can click it and it'll change the words to make it simpler for the number, for the language the student would be most comfortable with. So that's kind of a cool tool that we have on there. For our, we also have life skills. These are a little bit different than like if with ISOC stuff. This is like, hey, you want to know the value of your car? You teach them how to know, you think this car is worth this much? Let's go in and let's check out what Kelley Blue Book says. You're looking for a place, you're not sure where to find a new apartment. Let's look at rent.com and see what they have. Wanted to know some of the worker protections for pesticides. This one has really good practical money information. This one has, and this one's available in English and Spanish. Medline Plus has a lot of medicine and information in English and Spanish. There's always Craigslist. So if they need to find something, learn how to cook. And then we have exchange rates so they can see the difference in money between places. One we're super proud of, kind of excited about, is the OSY ELL resources that are available. So these are all ones that even if I'm super low literacy and I'm not sure what to do, there's a lot of visual things that I can see. Easy World of English has like picture dictionaries that you can go in and you can kind of pick and it'll let you see them and you can listen to them. There's some language, some audio picture guides. Like you open these up, you can get rid of all their ads. And you can see these different things and it'll tell you. So we were trying to find things that would be very easy for them to use. We also have ISOC stuff on here, Duolingo, and then our IDRC books that we have that are completely free for everyone to access. So we were just trying to make your life a little bit easier, have it all together. We are very excited about this. We hope that it's helpful and it's absolutely free. It's already there and you can just access it as you want. But next month, like I said, we'll go into really in depth of how to use it. I'm sure you can figure out how to use it yourself, but some ideas on that might be helpful on how to use that. So again, these are kind of some things that I showed you. I'll kind of scroll through these real quick. So pretty excited about it. I think it'll be helpful. We also have on the front of our website, please post the registration link. Like I said, really want to teach you to kind of go through and use the site. So like I said, go to the website and you can put that right there. So if you're wondering like, hey, how do I get there? Go to the IDRC website. And you can go ahead and go under the events, the upcoming events, and then you'll see right here the calendar. And so this is not the registration link, but you can go in there and find that particular thing that we have. So let me go back to what I was going to talk about for the slides. All right, so let me show you on the website another new resource that we had. We just updated the recruiter learning portal. It seems like things go so fast, and so we keep having to kind of change how we have things. So included on here is the front, our YouTube page. But what was I going to tell you about here? I just forgot my slide. Okay, yes. Let me think of where I put this actually. I'm trying to think. Actually, I think I maybe it's under what just new. We just barely did this. Oh, yes. So we're still finding a home for this. So you can find this under the what's new page because we have to redo part of our site so that you can see this. So these are new resources for data staff. And so you can go on here and these are just tools that our work groups have come up with on just data processes like residency verifications, move notifications, CSPR data that's needed, the reconciliation process, required MEP data. So if you're new to MEP and you're just kind of wondering how this works, these tools were just created so everyone can have access to that. We also have on the homepage, back to where I thought this was, you scroll open on the learning portal. I'll put this in the chat box. If you scroll down, we have a referral tool that absolutely everyone can use if they want to have access to. And so this is where it's kind of like a survey to just see if someone's eligible. They can click in here and take the survey. And if they have a referral for you, maybe it was a health department or a, Migrant Head Start has a possible someone that might be eligible or a farmer, they can go in here and take this really quick survey, and then it'll send a notification. If you have an account in this, then they can go ahead and get that referral. They'll get a notification. There was a question, can this be used by students for help with understanding a math problem or other students, kind of like a tutor guide? Yes, but you'll have to guide them onto what they should use. Like if they're having a hard time with math, you can go in and look at the grade level that they have, look at the tools we have, and there should be a site that'll have tutorials. And so you would want to kind of guide them to say, well, check this site out. Here's a math tutorial for, understanding two-digit division. And so you should be able to kind of help navigate that through. And you can also kind of give them an overview of, this is a site that has lots of lots of videos for math. So yeah, you can feel free to do it that way. But again, it's not a silver bullet if you just hand it to them without, guiding them and showing them how to use it. Otherwise, they're going to look at it, play a few games, and that'll be it. It's really depends on how deep you can go with that. So going back to the referral tool, we have some training tools that are available for this also. So if you're wondering what is this and you want more information, you can go into this page, and we've got training videos, a manual on how it works. We have sample brochures that you could actually modify even if you didn't use the referral tool. That kind of talks about, what MigrantNet is, who might be eligible, and then we have the links in there. So if you don't have access to the referral tool, I can give you the Word version of this, and you can always, put your information for them to contact you if they want to provide a referral. So that resource is available to everybody. We also have a brand new tool called Balanced Recruitment. This is really designed for people to take a look at how well they're balanced in their efforts. And so this again is under the recruiter portal, learning portal, and so you can access it here. There are 4 of these sessions that you can kind of go through. If you don't want to listen to them, we have the PowerPoints below that you can kind of read and listen to. We also have a strength assessment that recruiters can take to see kind of how comfortable they are in different areas and identify the areas that they maybe is their weaker area to recruit in. And then they can go back if they identify that, wow, I'm really not that comfortable canvassing housing. They can listen on some ideas, concrete strategies and things that they can do to really canvass housing. And so that's a new tool we have. We also have right on the front page, if you scroll down, we have our national assessment. So this is designed for you to really see where you're having a hard time at, where you don't understand something. It's not a pass fail, like, oh, you're not good, you didn't pass it. It's called, recruiting is complicated. There are specific areas of the rules that maybe it didn't make sense. And so what we do with states is if we'll work with the state administration, or we'll work with the recruiter that says, hey, I'm from the state of Pennsylvania, I'd like to take the test. We just set it up on the test that you're from the state of Pennsylvania. You'll get the results of how you did, and you'll see what you got wrong and why, and then you can kind of work on that area. If you're a supervisor and you want multiple recruiters to take it, you'll get those results, and you can see kind of trends of what areas they're all struggling with. It's absolutely free. It's available to everybody. You do have to have a code to get in to do that. And so that's something that anyone can take. Now, if you don't want to do the national one, you can also take these mini quizzes. This is something you can do on your own. And these are ones that'll give you you don't need a code. You just go in, you register, you take your test. And it kind of breaks down different parts of eligibility. The national one is definitely much more comprehensive, and it's got a lot more to it. It's scenarios based. And so you can access that whenever if you would like that, just email me and I can get you information on that. I kind of skimmed a little bit over this before about the language books that we have. If you go down on our front page and scroll down to where it says access a recruiter language resource page, these are books. Some of you guys used to buy the English in Minutes books. We made them for Tennessee years ago, and we would raise money for a scholarship program for our students. But what we've done is we now have some online books. And so the idea is you could actually, through WhatsApp or through any tool that you reach out to your parents or to your youth, you can actually share this link. And if they click on this, there's an actual book online that they can scroll through and look at, and it'll have this, the language learning resources that it has. This is in English and Spanish. And then right next to it on that front page is also the audio for that. And you can click on this and download all the audio. So if you wanted to put this on MP3 player, you wanted to just share the audio with them, they can listen to it on their phones. And so maybe you don't have the resources to print, all these different books, but you could share links. You could share this particular first book and say, hey, here's the first book, or you could share this page. and they can have all the audio and everything they need right in one place. So we also have, this English in Minutes books are pretty comprehensive. Tennessee, years ago, we made 2 bilingual guides, and these are not as comprehensive. And South Carolina has a really good guide in here too. And so like if you click on the Tennessee book here, we forgot about the rest of the conversation. Like we would teach them the phrases, but we forgot about the whole conversation. It'd be like, hey, I need work. And then someone says, well, when are you available? And you're like, I didn't plan for that. I was just practicing how to say I need work. And so, but this is still relevant, still helpful, and it has the English, the Spanish, English, and the phonetics. And so that's something for Spanish speakers that has been really helpful. So we've got several different books that are totally free. You can access them at any time. And then we also have lesson plans. So when we had the books in Tennessee, we used to actually do a lot of, there's a question on how do you print the books. Down below, we have all the PDFs. So all the PDFs of all the books, you can click on these and you can get the PDFs and be able to print them. So this is our online version if you're going to share the online file, because not everyone can access PDF. But right here at the end, if you're using the English in Minutes ones, we have lesson plans that go with each one of the books. It's extremely extensive. There are worksheets. There are just all sorts of information for teachers on these that tie right along with the lessons that are in those books. It's completely free. Feel free to use it however you want to use it. Let's see what else we have. I think the final resource, I know we're getting, how do you get to that link? Just go to the front page. Make sure I'm sharing the right thing. Go to the front page, scroll down until you see where it says targeted response to IDNR, access our recruiter language resource page. And so you can get right there. And there's a lot of things we just added too. We're also trying to add other languages. Down below, we had Swahili was one of our states asked for Swahili resources, and we found a whole bunch of free resources online. And so we just link those. They're just PDFs that you can. And so if we find more for particular languages, we'll throw those on there to help states. Okay, and so the very last thing I'm going to share is if you're new to IDNR or if you've been around and we have a flow chart that we just came to. And here's another link I forgot. We also, under the recruiter learning portal, we have the Learn English, and that'll take you to the language resources. But if you click on this flow chart, this is our attempt to make sense of all of the eligibility for migrant students. The idea that first you would need to, make sure I'm sharing this. First, you would need to make sure that there's a migratory agriculture worker. And here's the thought process on this. Then you would want to make sure that there's eligible children, or you might ask a quick question first to make sure they have kids. But this is the process of like, all right, there is a migratory agriculture worker. Okay, now are there kids that are actually eligible? Okay, now that I've determined there's a worker and there's children, how do I determine that there's, what the QID and the res date is? And this kind of walks you through. And then in the end, just a reminder to say, hey, don't forget your COE comments. And here's all the things that you need related to that. So I think we're out of time. So I'll go ahead and stop recording.